I want to instill in my children the idea that they can do anything they want. And if that means then that I'm going to do anything that I want now that I'm 30 years old. I'm sure it didn't hurt that I was married to an artist. He would encourage me to find my creative voice, not only find it, but also use my creative voice.
It was kind of my job to give her the space and the freedom and the permission to fail and to experiment and to kind of figure out what she needed to say as an artist.
I just don't think we always give ourselves as art makers that permission to kind of try it and just crash, crash and burn. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Rodney Veal's Inspired By podcast. I'm Rodney Veal, the host, and today, as I stumbled over in my thought process, this is the second time we've actually had two people on the podcast, and I like to refer to them as the dynamic duo of the art scene of Dayton, Ohio. So I'm fanboying out. They're just the most lovely people on the planet and incredible artists in their individual and rights on their own terms and turf, but they bring so much to the community and they bring so much to the art world. And I'm super excited to have them as a guest on the show. So welcome to Heather and Jeff Jones. Welcome to Inspired By.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Rodney.
Super cool. Now, like I said, dynamic duo. I always love to go in the hot tub time machine and go back in time because, you don't always you're fully formed as an artist, but was this always for both of you and individually, always the path that you were going to take? That creativity was it, art. You didn't plan to be a veterinarian or a doctor or anything else. So tell me about your childhoods.
Heather, I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, thanks. Yes and no. I was always creative. I mean, I remember making things with my hands when I was small, 3, 4, 5. Loved art all through elementary school, junior high, high school. But when I started college, I started pre-med because my mother was an artist and she had gone to school for art education. And it's not that she wasn't encouraging, but she also was realistic and she knew sort of how tough it is or was or could be to be an artist. So I also, at the same time I loved art, I also loved science. And I came from a line of both creative folks, but also doctors. My grandfather was a doctor here in Dayton, Ohio. And all of his siblings were doctors. So that's what I started in college, but I took art history classes as electives and really just sort of fell in love with that as well. And so my third year in college, I decided to change my major after sort of a life-changing trip to Greece. But
as one would do when going to Greece.
I saw the Parthenon in person, and I was like, well, I think I only live once, so I'm going to change my major. But at that time, I had been away from the studio for, a number of years. And for me, as someone who doesn't love the spotlight, it was easier to focus on other people as artists rather than claiming myself as an artist. So I went into art history at that point. And that's the rest is sort of history.
Which we will dive into. So, Jeff, what got you going?
I actually was a performer. I was in musical theater my entire life. Art was not even, like visual arts was not even in my mirror. But I was super interested in graffiti art and street art, and this is very, very early. This is in the mid 90s and such, before it became the kind of cool hip thing that it is today. But in my case, it was more for just being a vandalist punk kind of thing where, I'll be completely honest.
That's amazing.
It wasn't necessarily for the art form, it was more for just the expression. But really, musical theater was my life, from when I was about 6 years old up until, and this is where Heather and I kind of parallel, until my third year in college, just like Heather, when I switched my major from musical theater to painting. and really retired from musical theater at that moment because my last show that I ever did was Sunday in the Park with George, where played the painter George Seurat. And so when the curtain closed on that performance, it closed on my musical theater career, and I started painting.
That is so appropriate. I mean, Sunday in the Park. I mean, George
Hmm.
Seurat. So, I mean, what is it about? I mean, because I know myself personally. That when I made a decision to kind of stick to the art realm and not political science, um, there's just that spark. Is there? And how you kind of touched on this, like this emotion you were going into our history, and is really about other artists, but then it
Mhm,
becomes about yourself, and so
mhm.
what internally was driving the sort of kind of uh, artistry in the sense of because your art, both of your artworks are your art practices are uniquely your own, and I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, it goes back to my youth. I always was making things by hand, but it was always difficult for me to see me as an artist, even though I was making art since I was little. And I don't know if that is, you know, programmed into our society. It was, again, I'm not like one to bask in the spotlight. So I don't love the attention on me. So it was easier to sort of fit in and just continue to create. Um, but I would say it really then wasn't until I had our first child when I was 30 years old, that I realized that, you know, I could do things that I never really thought was possible and that I could see myself as an artist. And I think because when I became a parent, I wanted to teach my children that they could do anything in the
Mm.
world that they wanted to do, and that was not necessarily a lesson that was shared with me at a younger age. It wasn't until I was older and saw, again, maybe life through the eyes of a child that I realized that, I want to instill in my children the idea that they can do anything they want, and if that means then that I'm gonna do anything that I want now that I'm 30 years old, then that's kind of how that sort of revelation came to my mind.
Oh, that's such a cool revelation. I mean, oh, children do that. I mean,
They
it's
do.
and I love the fact that you wanted to give them the choices and the option and kind of like sort of embody it versus, hey, you could do anything, but it's really nice to see that the parents are doing anything
Yeah,
or they're doing their thing. And so, my
and I'm sure.
parents, yeah.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead. No, no, no.
I was
We're
just gonna say, I'm sure it didn't, hurt that I was married to an artist and that he encouraged. He's not only an artist, he's also an educator. And, I as I mentioned, my degrees are in art history, so I don't have, the BFA, I don't have an MFA, but I was married to someone who did, and he also instilled, the idea that, as an educator, he would encourage me to find my creative voice, not only find it, but also use my creative voice. So, I think, in my realm, it was, um, I had the support and encouragement of a partner as well.
Yeah, it was kind of my job to give her the space and the freedom and the permission to fail and to experiment and to kind of figure out what she needed to say as an artist.
wow. I thank you for saying the thing about the permission to fail. That's
Yeah.
a there's this really beautiful book. Sarah Lewis wrote it. It talks about the gift of failure and the mastery of the creative arts. And it's a really great book. So if you get a chance, I highly recommend it. She's coming to Springfield, and
I
I just
saw that.
love that because I just don't think we always give ourselves as art makers that permission to kind of try it and just crash,
Well,
crash and burn.
I have that conversation almost daily with my students where, like in my intro painting class, where they're trying to figure out how oil paint works for the first time. I always tell them, we're never going to make a finished piece. And if we have to abandon it halfway through and it fails, then we won, right? And so, because
Yeah.
it's about that journey and kind of that discovery of themselves and not necessarily the final thing that they put on the wall.
Yeah, and that's I think that's for me. I find it's interesting because as art makers, when we don't give ourselves permission to fail, but I don't think non-artists understand that that's why it takes so long to get to the finished product that's on the wall. This may be the third, fourth, fifth, 12th iteration of the attempt. And what I've noticed, and even in the conversation with not just visual artists in this podcast, is in all the art forms, we are literally the most experimental people on the planet, other than scientists. And so,
Mhm.
Well, I talk to my students about how they do have to be the most well-rounded human being possible. They have to be mathematicians, they have to be anthropologists, they have to be archaeologists, they have to be storytellers, they have to be carpenters, they have to be engineers. Just all of those things that they have to know everything about in order to make a piece of art or something creative.
uh, that is just that, but that's such a cool mark of that's why you guys are the cool dynamic duo of the arts, because it's like because you're imparting these life lessons beyond just the technical. And that's usually always that to me, that's always the kind of hallmark of great teaching, is that you
Well,
recognize it's not just a thing, it's more than
well,
the thing. Yeah.
I tell the kids the first day of class, if they want to learn how to paint, then they're not coming to the right person. But if they want to learn how to paint, then they're at the right person, right? It's two different things. It's kind of the technique versus the lifestyle, the thought process.
I love that. I love that. And I think what do you, because you're in the classroom, Jeff. I mean, one of the do you think that art is it, and this is about being an artist in the art, because you're still a working artist as well as an educator. This is, typical of all of us in these forums. We still do what we do. What is one of the things that is really interesting, because you're teaching these first years, people that are coming into painting? Are there just some misconceptions about not just the process, but the world of art that they're entering in? Do these students come in with a misconception of what the art world is?
Yeah, they one sometimes they think that it's much more difficult than it is. They think that they're going to go in and always be hungry and always be poor and never going to make it. So there's always a lot of doubt from the first time they walk in the door. But then the other thing is they feel like they don't have to put in the work, and it's called artwork. And they think that they can just show up in the studio for their class and then go back to some other part of their life and succeed. And so by doing that, they kind of do make the other part, the hard part, happen. But if they get to work and they put in the time and they fail and they keep getting themselves up and doing it again, then it is much, much easier than they think. And especially if they build an amazing support system, um,
Mm,
like this community has provided Heather and myself.
no, I love that about the support system, and I love that. Thank you for that, because I think I've had these conversations with artists in Cincinnati and folks in the Dayton region, and we're all saying the same thing. It's like this whole notion of you got to do the work. You got to. It is it is tedious. There's some tedious parts to it. There's a process. There's you can't skip steps, and so I what I've encountered, and I get it from the performing arts end because I taught at Stivers, the kids that thought they were automatically going to be superstars. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Do you think a lot of folks, is that a common thing in the visual arts world? Because I know from the performing arts, there seems to be this. I'm constantly having to talk people into the harsh reality.
Yeah, I mean, they think that they don't have to put in the work and they'll be famous, and it's not necessarily the case.
Oh,
You do have to show up. You have to show up even when you don't want to show up.
oh, that's a key. Well, there are so many. So, what happens when you guys have to, both of you, when you're like have to show up even when you don't want to? How do you motivate yourselves to get in there? Because you're juggling family, art making, curating, education. I mean, Whoa. I thought I was doing a lot, but clearly I'm not. So,
I got the best cheerleader in the world. You
Well,
know, I've
yeah, and
got
I
the
do
best
too.
cheerleader.
I think, I don't know. I think we don't have a lot of free time. I feel like our free time, what little we have, it's spent with the family, our kids. Our kids are teenagers, but they still enjoy hanging out with us, which is fun. And I don't know. I have been really cognizant of the passing of time this year. So, um, deadlines are a big motivator. But when I don't have deadlines, I've just been really sort of soaking up, maybe the last few years of the kids at home. I feel like this summer that was a really big uh, choice of mine that I haven't worked in the studio as much as maybe I would have liked to because I know that time is fleeting and the studio will be there. But the kids may not be under the
oh.
roof, that is, so I've just been,
Right, right. Yeah,
you know
because
what I
it's
mean? I've been really focusing on that. But I think also, I mean, personally speaking, I think even if you're tired, I think what you get from being in the studio revives you and energizes you. So even when you feel like you might not want to go or you may be tired, um, the benefits are always there. So that is one reason, that keeps me coming back, even when, I might not feel like being there physically, right? I'm going to get something mentally from it.
Well,
oh,
I
yeah.
think we support each other really well. Where if one of us has a deadline, we understand that. Like we understand that when Heather's working on a big show, she has to get to work, and maybe my role shifts, and maybe I step out of the studio for a little bit so that she can step into the studio, and then we trade off. Um, just trying to make sure that each of us have the tools and the resources and the time and the support and the love that we need in order to say something.
Oh, that's so important. Are you guys are you still in that studio space, shared studio space right
We have a
now?
At
studio.
Front Street?
Yeah, we have a studio at Front Street. The front is a project space that Jeff started, gosh, over 10 years ago called Divisible Project Space, where we show a new exhibition every month. So in addition, we're also both, I mean, I help, but that's really, I think, Jeff's bigger project
Oh,
than
this
mine.
is why that's
Yeah.
wild. I mean,
So I'm telling you what, it's lots of moving parts. It's a lot of juggling that goes around. And then Jeff also has a studio at home. I have a studio at home. And Jeff also gets to work some at school, which is nice.
wow. So you're just it's just this that's it was almost like a circuit. I
It is,
mean,
yeah, you can't disconnect any part. I mean, it's all, there's not separation between, life as an artist and life as a parent and life as a wife. It's all intertwined.
all intertwined, which is what makes you guys the dynamic duo of the arts in Dayton, Ohio. What I say that with a smile on my face, but it's really true. This is really funny because I was in the before this interview. Richard Nordstrom, one of our videographers, and I said, "Hey, we had a conversation. I said, Richard, I got to go. I'm doing a podcast recording, and I'm with Heather and Jeff Jones." And he went, "Heather Jones, is she the one that does the quilt sort of paintings and things?" He goes, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm like, "Oh my god, okay, calm down, Richard." We're just gonna hear this. He's gonna be mad at me for it, but you have a fan club. I mean, that's it's kind of like this interesting moment. It's like, what is that like? I mean, because I said people do respect and admire the work that you do because I think it's because you're on the circuit. You don't have time for things that don't serve the purpose. I guess is the phrase for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very kind of you to say and to share the words. Um, I don't even know. I just, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of extra time. And even like when I'm working in the studio at Front Street, I'm not great about, because my time is so limited. I go to the studio and work the few hours or minutes that I have. So head
Wow.
on, get to work, just, I think, very
Mhm.
self-motivated, and then, on to the next thing. So, not a lot of extra time for, you know, I don't know, chit-chatting with my studio neighbors, and that type of stuff, which is not, a great way to live, but just it's sort of the season that we're in right now with, our responsibilities to our day jobs, our work, our
Yeah.
responsibilities to our kids, and then each other. So, yeah, it's just, just trying to make it all work. And every
Yeah.
day is different. Like Jeff said, if we have deadlines for exhibitions, um, things shift, I would say, responsibilities can shift, maybe one of us gets the kids, off to wherever they need to be, and steps in, or dinner, or
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
But yeah, just make it
I
work.
think. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Heather. I
No,
cut
that's
you
it.
off.
Yeah.
I think we collectively do a really good job of being selfless and selfish, and I mean the selfish part in the greatest sense because sometimes when you say selfish, it's negative. But
Yeah. Right.
I think that what we do collectively is dance between the selfish and the selfless. I mean, we're constantly giving, but we also, when we have to take, we support that taking. And
I love that. Because I'm always going to love a dance metaphor. So but it really is, and I'm so glad you said it that way because I feel most folks who are in a similar sort of boat with you two as working artists and as a couple, it's that dance. It's the constant dance between those two diametric things, and that's what makes it. That just is a real testament to your character and true testament to the value system that you both live by, that I feel manifests itself in the work. There's an integrity to the work. The work is beautiful, it's striking, it has deep meaning. And so I just feel like, I mean, does the circuit sometimes of this couple and this family and the circuit of the life that you share inform your work? I'm kind of curious about that.
well, of course it does. I mean, it has to because um, it's all connected and it's so deep and personal. And both of our works are about relationships, of our relationships with each other, our relationships with our community, with our parents, with our histories, um, and our futures too. And so we internalize and manifest this narrative about um, just what it means to be alive in this world, um, and how much we give to each other and to the community. You know, I wasn't ever really given a lot of opportunities as a young artist. I grew up pretty poor,
Okay. Yeah.
very lower middle class, if not at the bottom of the barrel sometimes. And so, it's part of it is just giving and giving and giving and giving as much opportunity to people as possible. And that's the thing. It's like when I first saw Heather in the art library at the University of Cincinnati, before I even knew her name or what she sounded like or what kind of work she made, there was just this aura about her and this energy that it was like there's something special there. And
Yeah.
and so again, the work is all about those kind of relationships. And
Yeah.
um, I won the lottery, man.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand it. I totally get it. When you it's that's it makes the bittersweetness of living bearable when
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
when you meet and you've met in such on such common ground, the both of you. Do you
Yeah, we
Yeah.
know?
did.
I mean, that's pretty cool. That's
We actually
which
and we officially met at a Halloween party, so it was like, what, in
Are you
1989?
serious?
Yeah, it was 26
No.
years ago. Yeah, 26 years ago, like yesterday.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
26 years ago
Yesterday. Oh my
yesterday.
god. At
So
a
we've been
hall.
together, gosh, that's over half our
Yeah.
lives.
And we actually
Oh
went on our
wow.
first real date 26 years ago tomorrow.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
it,
you know
isn't it
I
isn't it
What?
wild to look back on that and like you realize, wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We were
Yeah.
babies.
Oh yeah, yeah, you were. But it's okay though.
No, it's
We're,
good. It's all
it
good.
was it was all good. It's all good. It's
Yeah.
really funny. I have to tell you this really lovely. It was something that happened last week, and it was the reason why I call you guys the dynamic duo. There's another dynamic duo in Dayton, Ohio that I just adore, and that's Bing and Audrey Davis.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
fans of them as
it
well.
and I have to tell you, it was we were at DePaul University, and they were being honored. Bing was being honored for his contributions to DePaul, and we were in the gallery looking at his artwork, and they were leaving, and he held out his hand, and she took his hand, and they just walked hand in hand out the door. And I thought to myself, that's what I'm talking about. The art was like that relationship makes this all possible.
That's
and,
right.
and that
That's
and
right.
that's what you guys are saying, and it's like it's lovely. It's like, see, it does work.
It
It-
it does, and we both lost a parent. Our first kind of both. I lost my father, and
hmm,
she lost her mother, and so we've kind of gone through this life cycle together. We became in this club that no one wants to be in, and everybody will belong to one day, and
yeah.
so losing them so close in proximity to each other has even helped us even more, I think, with understanding ourselves, understanding our roles, and understanding our work, because there becomes this point where both of our works are about the idea of mourning and then mourning.
Mm. Wow.
The understanding the grief, the loss. How do you cope with that? But then also, how do you move forward? It's the mourning and the mourning.
The morning
Like,
in the morning.
so
Yes.
you have to wake up the next day and confront what goes on, and then you get to choose the next step that you make after that. And I think that's really kind of informed, again, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our children, and our relationship with our work and our community.
Does it those those twin losses, does that motivate you to even want to do even more? It's kind of a weird thing. Like, like it kind of accelerates like this urgency, this urge
It
for
does.
the work. I
Yeah,
mean,
it does. And, I mean, I'll speak for a second on this. I was, and that's actually 3 years tomorrow. So yeah, this time of year is really, powerful. But I was out of town and it was sudden. And, I was in New York City doing a residency for 10 months. Um, and then I had to come back, and deal with not only the loss of my mom, I was her only child. She was divorced. So all of the, um, you know, business things that come with the end of someone's life, fell on my shoulders as well. So, and no one ever teaches you that. No one ever taught me that. So, um,
hmm.
there were times when, the only thing I could do was sit on the couch with a pad of paper and a tray of watercolor paint. And I really used, um, making art to, I think, as a form of, healing, as a form of, uh, I don't know if I'll say therapy, but, some sort of, um, balm on my soul. Um, because as I said, it was just, the worst thing that ever happened to me. So, again, I would say grateful to, my mom for instilling the love of art. And, she was my first art teacher. She made
Mm.
ceramics and she encouraged me to do, art as well. Maybe not as a career, but definitely as,
As a
uh,
human being, it's like
as a human being. Yeah, no, for sure. As a human
yeah,
being.
yeah, absolutely,
Um,
absolutely, yeah.
Gosh, she made the most beautiful ceramics, and she, put me in classes as a kid, and I was always like, I'd look at her work, which was like amazing, and then my work was like lumpy and disformed, and um, but I also remember being like literally 4 years old and making pots out of mud in my backyard and drying them in the sun and then painting them with watercolor paint. And my dad still has one to this day. So, I feel like I owe her a lot, but also, I was able to tap into what she had taught me to
Hmm.
help me deal with, the worst loss that I could have ever had. So, um, I'm certainly grateful to her for that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think I feel like I've always been cognizant of time and the passing of time, but having a loss really solidifies that. in ways that, the idea of it cannot.
And I honestly think her work got better, which I never thought it
Mm,
could, because I always thought she was the greatest to begin with. But then that moment, she was able to kind of channel something, and then the next groups of works that she made, it was just like
there it is. Yeah.
tearful, unspeakable. It was just like, that's it. You've said what you need to say, and it
Yeah.
just kind of continues, and so it really has been um, a really important thing
Well, I
that
think
has
for me, I
changed her
mean,
work.
gosh, if I could change it, I would change it, obviously, and make her still here, um, if I could. But it also sort of um, led me to see that the fact that my work is about my matrilineal heritage. It's about my mom. It's about my grandmothers. It's about my aunts. It's about women who came before me, um, in ways that I hadn't really thought of, um,
Okay.
until I lost her.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, and you hope, and like I said, it was- it's very similar to something that Jess McMillan talked about in her, and when we did our podcast about the loss of her mother, the realization she was in school, and there was this notion that she had to take care of her sister, and so it
Mhm.
became the motivations. I mean, those losses are motivators, and so, and I love the because the way that both of you are articulating it is just putting it in a beautiful context versus it being a devastation. It can also lead to opening a door to a creative process that you may not have even thought you could open, a door you could think you could open.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it completely did that. I actually lost my father on my 50th birthday. So
Whoa.
it was this kind of weird, surreal moment. And my baby sister's birthday is the same day as mine. And so there's two of us sitting in the room with the same birthday, holding our father as he passed away, And so there's like these massive milestone kind of
Wow.
moments where you you suddenly get old.
Mm-hmm.
50's not old, but you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know.
It's like, wow. And then all of a sudden, at the same moment, you're reckoning with this tragic moment in your life, and it's devastatingly beautiful,
Hmm.
right? And it makes you think about the work and life differently.
Absolutely. I mean, and it comes through in both your works. This just, do you feel like the work that you've made since feels like a leap, like almost like, I hate to say that in these terms, but like an evolutionary leap forward, like you skipped because it just kind of pushed you. And because you talked about tools, like, I like life. I always believe life is tools. Is full of these tools that will inform movement and art making and just your connections to other people. But did you feel like there's this evolutionary step, and now you're like, whoa? It's like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we both instantly started to explore scale in our work.
mm,
I think our, and I'm speaking for Heather a little bit here, and she can jump in. But I feel like our sensitivity to color has changed, where we've always been sensitive and thoughtful about color. I really think that we're both color theorists. Um, but it's just like
nice, yeah,
our relationship to color, our relationship to seeing the world around us, and how the subtle shifts of the color of the sky influences and impacts the work. I think our tool usage, to go back to that word that you were just saying, I think our tool usage and the way that we handle materials has changed and elevated. Um, and I think the work has gotten both more introspective and focused.
And at the same
mm,
time, universal. I mean, I feel like, we're tapping into, issues of, uh, that are universal to people, just sort of learning where they're from,
Mm-hmm.
connecting to, those who came before us, and, making
Yeah.
work that, is relevant today, but hopefully in the future as well.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and Think TV, two local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
I think that's one of the things that I've always espoused and kind of have talked about, is that I try to just encourage people to go see art, go to a gallery, go to a museum, go to a performance, go to that coffee shop and hear that beat poet do whatever, go stand on the street corner and watch them break, whatever it is, because this is going to give you more information than the act itself. Because it's like a book. There's so many pages of information and layers of information. It's right there in front of you. And it speaks to, hopefully, like you said, to the universal. It speaks, I believe all art does. I refuse to believe that, that some art is just purely surface, because there has to be a thought process even behind the surface. So there's already another layer, because if someone thought of this and their motivations why. And so how do we, in a world that we currently live in, like what do we say to folks about the art and art making, especially in a democracy? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? It's the first time I've ever asked that question. I'll be honest with you. I think the two of you, because you guys are so connected, just like I am, and several other people in our community.
Well, all art is political. No matter if it's a white square on a white wall, or it is a extremely narrative photograph, or it's all political. You're all trying to say something about how you reckon with the world. Um, I think there's so much noise now. There's so much
Mm-hmm.
digital noise. There's so much noise in screens and in amount of information and in politics, and that it's our job to start going through all of that, kind of filtering it and sifting it and trying to be truth tellers. Um, I think it's our job as artists to slow down society
Yeah.
and make people understand a little bit more about themselves, and that it's not just constant go, that there has to be constant stop. And I think the work that we both make is all ask the viewer to stop and to look and to question and to reflect. Right? Our job is to reward the public for spending time with the work.
Mm.
We both work abstractly. We both work in this kind of a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, that's easy, that's boring, that's whatever you want." But
It's
Or
that's
what is it?
totally fine. That's
Yeah.
totally fine, because I'm not trying to speak to everyone, right?
mm,
And
mm.
if you can't find the time to spend looking, then you're going to miss what Heather has to tell you about the world. Um, and so I think in this political and social and financial environment, our job is to tell the truth.
I think also, I mean, going back to this idea of, art in the time of, or how it relates to a democracy. I mean, I look at art, be it visual art, be it, um, dance, be it music. I mean, it's a manifestation of your soul, right? It is creating something, a dance piece, a piece of music, a painting, a sculpture, um, that can only come from you.
It's
So it is a
self-portraiture.
reflection. It's a reflection of your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is, to me, it's so tied to each of us as a person, which, everyone is unique. Everyone is an individual. I mean, in the times that I've taught, I'm teaching a project and giving a student the same amount of materials, the same exact materials, the same project, the same instructions. Every project is going to look different. I mean, you can work with the same ingredients and follow the same set of rules, but it's all going to be different because it's a manifestation of your soul. And so it is tied to the individual, and which is to me the most democratic thing that it can be. These are all reflections of us as a person, and it's our job. And some of us, maybe are more tapped into that. I feel like everyone is creative. Sometimes people shut that out,
Hmm.
but it's all there. I mean, look at children, like they're young kids they gravitate to dance and they gravitate to sound and singing and
Hmm.
drawing with crayons and anything they can get their hands on. And it's not till they get older that they sometimes, I feel like, let the outside world in and stop, connecting with that inner creativity that they have inherently, um, which is a shame, right? I feel like that's
Oh,
our
yeah, absolutely.
society, that is sort of
Yeah.
that. But it's all in us. It's in us all. It's just up to us whether or not we listen to it.
That's
Well,
so, yeah. Keep going.
well,
Go. Keep.
well, just right now with everybody being so connected and having so much information, you would think that that would make us more individuals, but it's turning everyone into robots. Everybody, has the same catchphrase now, or the same meme, or the same
Hmm.
hairstyle, or the same
Yeah.
clothing. And I see that at the university, especially, where all I see are clones of everyone else, and everyone's
Uh,
doing the exact same thing. And and part of our job is to break that cycle.
yeah, I
And
like
it's what
that.
Heather
Oh.
was saying, is like when they're younger, they do show themselves. When
Hmm.
they get older, they morph into each other.
I love that. That's so true. You know that there's a phrase for it. I don't remember the author, but the book is called Filter World, and it's this questioning of digital culture flattening our culture, like our society, like it's flattening. It's like that flattening just is in essence the homogenization, the blandness. It's they they all dress the same, they all look the same memes, the same, and but what the artists, truly pursuing creative artists and creativity is spiking above the filter and the flattening. And
Yeah.
I think that's the sweet spot. I always felt like, God, that's the place to be. I'm like, why would you want to be, you know, like, and it's really interesting about, because you said something earlier, Jeff, about people see an abstraction and they think, oh, a child could do that, or I could do that. It's like, that's easy. It's like, well, no, it's not easy. And you talk about scale, and I'm thinking, we've we've made it so it's easy to be dismissive versus objective and open.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I think digital culture has a play in that. It really does, especially in our current society.
Hmm.
So, how does could digital culture manifest itself within your works? I mean, you have obviously, you encounter it, you use it, we all use it. I mean, but how does it kind of, for good or for worse or indifferent, how does it kind of impact how you see art and art making?
I mean, I think, for me, being connected to artists that I've been able to meet through different residency programs that I've done, stay in contact with them through social media is a good thing. I try not to spend too much time on it, but it's also a great way to be able to share your work, as an artist, um, to audiences that really are global, right? I mean, not just in your geographical community. I mean, that is one good thing I think about, social media. Jeff and I both have been able to build a community that is not just in Ohio, not just in the Midwest, but, really globally. And without social media, without these, little devices, that would be impossible. I think when we were growing up, we're of an age where we didn't have cell phones and we got them in college, but you know, you wouldn't to get to know people or to stay in touch with people. It was much more difficult, right? So
Right.
there are some
Absolutely.
advantages about having this connection through these devices. Um, but also, I mean, I think, oh gosh, just seeing it in our kids, and I think our kids are, abnormal in the fact that they're not always on their phones as much. I mean,
Mm.
they're on them too much for sure. They're on them too much. We
Which,
have a
yeah.
17-year-old and a 19-year-old. They're on their phones too much. But they also know the beauty of real life things. But
Mhm.
it's just a different generation. And I'm really glad that we didn't have them when I was, our
Oh
kids' age,
God.
because
Amen.
there is no, you know, stepping away from people there, if one chooses to. There's no stepping away, like Jeff said, of, removing yourself from this constant noise, um,
Mhm.
which is, very important to do that, I think,
I
So,
wouldn't have made it. I would not have made it. I don't have the discipline.
I'm
Um,
with you. That's why,
you,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
and also
and
like,
it's
gosh,
hard.
recordings. I'm glad that some things that I did when I was younger are not recorded,
Oh my God.
for all eternity
Amen.
and shared for
Right,
thousands
both
of
hands are
people.
raised. I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Right.
I wouldn't want that repeating back on a cycle. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
do you know what I'm saying? That's a real thing.
Right. It is
We
a real
were,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, yeah. So it's like, and I always think about that in terms of like the connective threads that and like the usage of it to serve a greater good versus self indulgence and what I don't know what
Yeah.
that is. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
I do. I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like Heather said, our careers have become global
yeah,
because
they
of it.
have. Yeah.
We have both shown our work all over the world.
Hmm.
Through divisible projects, I've been able to bring artists from all over the world just
Yeah.
to Front Street. Um, it keeps us connected. We don't have to live in New York or LA or London or whatever to be
Thank
artists,
you.
right? There's
I
a difference.
am.
There's a difference between location and locale. Like we both can be
Ooh.
New York artists, but live in Miami Valley,
Thank you.
and it's mindset there, and it's like we can have the best of both worlds.
Hmm.
Um, but it is completely a time suck, and I think that people are missing so much. So like we travel to New York a lot because that is the center of the visual art world. So
And all of the art worlds, actually. I
yeah,
hate to say it.
so
Sorry, it is.
right. Well, I
It
was
is.
at the Museum of Modern Art in September, and I'm standing in the room where Monet's water lilies are, and
Oh.
and it's again this tearful, impactful. You look at the scale, and you look at the movement, and you look at the way
Hmm.
that he was pushing paint around, and he was not painting the water lilies, but he was painting the paint, and it's like you're just investing yourself in this. And I look around, and there's seven of us in the room, and I'm the only one looking at the piece, and everybody else is sitting down looking at their phones, and I'm going. Do you not know what you have? Do you not know what you're in front of? Well, that's fine because I have the whole thing to myself,
Self. You have it to
basically.
yourself. Exactly. It's like those moments. I mean, that always blows my mind because I always tell people all the time, like, you go to a museum, if you're not in there for hours on end, what are you doing? Like, don't give it just a work 10 seconds. Like, no, I don't need to. I want to sit and kind of ponder some thoughts. And I try to instill that in our audience. Like, don't, the other stuff will be there.
Right. Right.
this this time that you're in front of Monet's water lilies may be a fleeting moment, and you need to
That's
take
right.
advantage of it because it's speaking, like you said, paint pushing paint, but it's also it was also a transition to how his perspective of the world changed our perspective of art
That's right.
making and in many ways how our society moves forward. And so
That's
yeah,
right.
it's a question that I ask on we've started asking, especially with this new season, because it's about imposter syndrome, and I think it's one of those things that we can't escape it, where we don't think we're not worthy or we're not the ones to do and be. And I want to what would you say to maybe artists or art makers or folks who see the arts and who think that, this world's not for me, or this is not, I shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be pursuing this because I don't have the pedigree, because I don't believe in pedigree. I just, great that people have it. Glad that people went to school, but the world is made up of all kinds of people. So what do you say to those folks who might think that they may not fit in to this art world?
Do you want to
You've
start?
made you well. I was gonna say, Rodney, you finally like shut me up. Um,
No, we don't shut people up on podcasts. I mean,
but you know, but
we
it's
want
like
thoughts. We want thoughts.
I talk a lot, and I'm not afraid to
I
to
love it. That's
say
what.
things. Um,
Say it. It's like it's awesome. That's what
but
this
it
is for. Yeah.
but it is for everyone. We start this life through creative practices and creative journeys. We're always making things. We're always putting on skits. You know, we have two amazing, creatively brilliant children, and of course, every parent would say that, but I think our kids are special. Like we've been blessed to have dinner theater every single night for 19 years.
Just
Like
about, yeah.
Wow.
every
But I
single
shows. Well,
night,
I feel like it's not as frequent now that they're teenagers, but when they were younger, it was every night for sure.
and so it's like we've always seen these creative things in our children. And it what do you tell people? It is for you. I mean, let's like, and you have to give them the opportunity to do that. And um, I I teach like I teach painting, and like the goal is everybody goes, oh, I want to teach the upper level students and the people that are really serious about this kind of stuff. And very rarely do I have people say, oh no, I want to teach the first year students.
Huh.
You know,
That's right.
but I have this amazing opportunity to teach non-majors painting.
Wow.
And 99% of the folks come in there, and I ask them the first day of class, well, why are you in this class? Well, one, we're required by the university to take an arts class, blah, blah, blah. Two, I've heard this is a super easy class. And then three, I asked them, I said, who's in here just to goof off? And some of them raised their hand. Yeah, I'm just here to goof off. And I go, that's cool. Because my class is really about that break from the rest of the world. There's a lot of engineers, there's a lot of computer science, there's a lot of nurses in there. And it's like, it's that moment where we turn the lights down low, we put the music on, we push this paint around, whatever. And through that process, they start to see that it is for them. I had a kid come up to me on Tuesday, and he said, I'm really proud of myself. I didn't think I could do this.
Wow.
And that's what it's all about. And so it is for everyone. You just have to give them the space and the mentorship and the patience and the opportunity to do that. And so, it's almost like that movie Ratatouille where it says anyone can cook, right? It's
Yeah.
like anyone can do this. You just have to give them the support and the space and the freedom to do it, um, and in a safe, caring environment.
But I will say, I think imposter syndrome is real. As
It's
I
true.
mentioned earlier, like, I don't have an MFA. So at the beginning, when I really, sort of made a shift, I mean, we haven't really talked about this, but, for a long time I was making quilts. I wrote a book on quilt making that came out
I
10
saw
years
that.
ago.
Yes, I
Um,
know.
and then I made this shift because I wanted to go back to fine art, which is something that I had always loved and always did as well. But there was some self-doubt and questioning because, I didn't go to school for that. Yes, I studied art, but it was art history. I took studio
Mhm.
classes, but it wasn't, enough to get a BFA or an MFA. I always was self-taught as well in terms of making things, from, quilt making and beyond. So, but there was a shift that I wanted to do things, but I didn't know that I was good enough to do it. I didn't know if
Mm.
you know, there was doubt there, a lot of doubt. And so again, having Jeff as a partner and a mentor, he was encouraging. And then, you know, I remember I had applied for this residency in Dakar, Senegal. And, he is my biggest cheerleader. And it was the deadline because I always kind of wait to the last minute. And, I think that the
Kindred
deadline
spirit on that one. Yeah.
was midnight of that night. And it was about 8 o'clock and I hadn't finished my application. And, I said, should I do this? And he was like,
Nope.
I think I just go to bed if I were you. I just go to bed.
I told her no. I
He's
said,
my
don't
biggest
do it.
cheerleader, my biggest supporter, but he was also real. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. That lit the fire. So I, applied, never fathoming that I would get in. Lo and behold, I got in. So, and my point of this story is if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try, you'll never get in. If you don't put yourself out there, if you don't, even if you have that doubt in your mind, if you don't do it, you will never know. But if you
Yeah.
do it, you will have a chance. And, being in that program, I was at Black Rock, Senegal, which is a residency program founded by Kehinde Wiley, who is, I would say, arguably the most famous painter living today.
Yes.
Um,
He's up
and
there. Yes.
he is up there.
Oh yeah.
So I was
Big
able to
fan.
spend a month there in
Wow.
October of 2019, the pre-pandemic. But I was part of the inaugural class. And so here I am, born in Dayton, Ohio, grew up in Cincinnati, this, 40 something woman. And I spent a month in Dakar, which is never anything that I had on my bingo card. I never knew that that would be a possibility. But I tried something. I was uncomfortable. I put something, out there in the world, and lo and behold, it resonated with both Gahinde and the other members on the jury for that residency program. So, and that was an experience that had a profound effect on me personally, as well as on my practice. And it was really the first time that I was able to see my work sort of on this global stage. So not having a BFA, not having an MFA from a prestigious school, yet I was, included in this conversation that I didn't even know that I could be a part of. So, and the reason I tell you that story is, and, listeners sharing the story with your listeners is you just got to do it. Even if you're scared, even if you feel like
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
faking it until you make it, you just do it.
And
Um,
and you all
you
and you
don't know
also
what,
have to
you don't know what the outcome is going to be if you
Absolutely.
do.
and
Yeah.
you also have to follow your heart and your
Yeah.
gut, because I'll be honest, I told her no.
Yeah.
I told her don't do
No,
it.
don't do
And
it.
because I was trying to be
Yeah.
real and protect her, right?
Wow.
Because I didn't want her to put all this work in, get her hopes up, and then get them dashed by not getting in. And so I was honestly trying to protect her, and she did it anyway. She was resilient and did it, and look at what happened. And so from that moment on, I said, okay, never again. I learned a massive lesson. It's like, I'll never stand in the way of you doing anything and everything you need to do in order for you to be amazing.
Well, thank you. And I
Wow.
mean, you weren't
Wow.
standing in the way, but it was also realistic. Kind of
It's
like when
realistic.
said, you can do art, but you don't need to major in art. I mean, it was a place of love, right? Like it was her wanting me to have a life where I wasn't a starving artist or, the whole trope. But so yeah, it was not out of, trying to hold me back, but it was also just, you know, realism is also good in this world.
This is so true. But what I love about this is the fact like it is this. This is why I describe you guys as the dynamic duo of the arts in Dayton, Ohio, for this reason, because that's what I think goes into understanding what this life and the art is,
Yeah.
and the two of you embody it so beautifully, individually and together. And so that's my fanboy moment. Sorry, if it's embarrassing, but I just feel strongly about that. And
Thank you.
the both of you are doing beyond the work. And I love the fact that Jeff, you said it, you could be of the New York art scene and not be in New York.
For sure.
So
Sure.
you could have a global impact, but be in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
You can affect the world by just saying, yes, I'm going to do this. And you too
That's
embody it.
that's right. And I do just want to say that it really is mindset. It's like there's the old thing, you can accomplish anything you want if you put your mind to it. And let me tell you just a really quick story, and
Go
then I'll
for
be
it.
quiet. So again, I was a musical theater major, and that was my life. And so when I switched to painting, I knew that I'd made the right decision, but there was a hole in my heart
Mm-hmm.
because I love musical theater. And so when I was in undergraduate school, Jesus Christ Superstar came through town, and I went and saw everything that I possibly could. And uh, this was one of the anniversaries of the movie, and Ted Neely was playing Jesus. He's one of my absolute idols, and I worshipped watching that movie all the time. So I had this weird encounter where I was able to meet him, and he gave me backstage passes, all the stuff. So I met him after the show one day, and he said, "Well, what do you want to be when you are done?" And I said, "A starving artist," right? Because I was going to be a starving artist. And he was so offended by that. And he said, "I want you to think about it differently, and I want you to take the V out of starving." And I sat there for a minute and goes, "What?" And he said, "Starring. You have to be a starring artist." And it's all about mindset. And so the next day he visited my studio and he bought the very first piece I ever sold,
Wow.
because he wanted to show me that it is mindset, and if as long as I was going to be a starving artist, I was going to be a starving artist. But when I
You're going to
changed
starve.
and shifted things, he just said, "Then I'm going to buy something from you, and now you're a professional. Now you're on your way."
Wow.
And so the first piece of art I ever sold was to Ted Neely from Jesus Christ Superstar.
There you
And
go.
it put me on that path, saying, like, you can
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Change the mindset. I mean,
You
absolutely.
know,
And yeah.
I had somebody who believed in me, even if it was, through a 30-minute conversation. He believed in me, or he believed in the idea of art enough to take
Wow.
somebody who is young and unsure and say, "You got this, kid. Go for it."
There you go. That is the perfect story to end on. It's a perfect story because you guys are awesome. There's no other words. You're
You're
good.
awesome.
You both.
And Ronnie, thank you
Oh,
for what you do for the arts here in the community too. I mean, you are a superstar.
oh, that's very kind. Thank you. It's just the life of. I believe in service. I grew up that way.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
my parents.
that's why I'm a
That.
teacher. That's why
Yeah.
I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I tell my son that Jonesmen were put on this earth to give and to serve, and that's what we
Yeah.
do.
And that is why we're in our mutual admiration society.
There we go.